Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Taylor, aka Silver Fox, and here on this channel I talk about classic literature, films, pop culture, and whatever I feel like talking about. And today I feel like talking about the history of the birthday. And I may have ulterior motives with that because today is my birthday. Well, not today the day I'm filming, but today the day this is uploading. August 18th, 2025 is my 27th birthday. And so I thought it would be fun to do a birthday themed video for my birthday. And today I am embracing the micro bangs and doing an Aurora themed look because you guys said I should.
Throughout my life, I've been very obsessed with death.
For anyone who doesn't want to just hear me out for a quick second, timestamp to when this ends and the topic of the video begins. I did my bangs up, I tried to even them out myself. And if you think this looks bad, you should see my first attempt at this. But I know Aurora does these little things on her eyes. Sometimes she does more minimalist makeup, not a lot going on, so no eyeliner, not a lot of colors, but I don't know if you can tell, but this is blue to match my dress. And this dress was actually, my sister gave me this a couple days ago, and apparently her best friend had given it to her, so this is basically the sisterhood of the traveling dress at this point. I wanted to do an Aurora themed look, and I looked at some of her outfits, and I really didn't have anything that was like her style, because she has a really cute style, but she has like very bright colors and all of this stuff. She has a lot of sheer things. This is the only sheer top I have. She wears a lot of dresses. This is one of the only dresses I have. So this is the outfit we're going with. She also wears these lacy gloves, which I wish I had, but I only have these. Hi! So it's not 100% Aurora, but hopefully the vibes still shine through. This is also the first time in several years that I have straightened my bangs. And I can't get my hair to look just right, so ignore that. Ignore that. We are rolling with it. We are rolling with it. I don't know what that was. Also, I'm doing a little something different with the angle, and the shelves, they look different than normal because I rearranged them a couple days ago just for funsies because I'm getting new shelves hopefully soon. So I just kind of reorganized all the books by vibes. They're not even organized by author or anything. They're basically just, all my Penguin classics are right here behind me. Those are pretty much the only ones that are really sorted. I don't know if you can see it, but my Kafka books are still right here. Anyway, so the bookshelf looks different. It will also look different in the next video because I will be rearranging them again when the new shelves get here. But okay, let's get right into the topic. When did people start celebrating birthdays? How has the celebration and cultural practices evolved over time? How do certain religions celebrate or not celebrate birthdays? Ancient Egyptians are believed to be some of the first to celebrate birthdays. They celebrated the birthday of their gods as a religious practice, as well as for their pharaohs, as they believed once a pharaoh was coronated, they basically became a god. The first birthday celebrations were as early as 3000 BCE, with mentions of pharaohs' birthdays in the book of Genesis. Extravagant parties were thrown in celebration of their pharaohs achieving godlike status. Ancient Rome also celebrated the founding of their temples as the birthdays for their deities. I will be reading a lot from Wikipedia in this video, and sue me, okay? I love Wikipedia. Each human likewise had a natal divinity, the guardian spirit called Genius, or sometimes Juno for a woman, who was owed religious devotion on the day of birth, usually in the household shrine, which was called a lararium. The decoration of the lararium often shows the genius in the role of the person carrying out the rites. A person marked on their birthday with ritual acts that might include lighting an altar, saying prayers, making vows, anointing and wreathing a statue of the genius, or sacrificing to a patron deity. Incense, cakes, and wines were common offerings. For a long time, birthday celebrations were reserved only for the affluent, perhaps because they were the only ones who could afford to host the extravagant parties or even afford a simple cake to celebrate, or like how in ancient Egypt they only chose to celebrate their deities. And so, those who could afford a cake probably still gave that to their deity instead. Over time, though, with the emergence of the middle class, more average people had the opportunity to buy themselves a cake and invite friends over to celebrate with them. Celebrating your own birthday has become more and more common over the centuries. Until now, in 2025, it's almost strange to see someone who doesn't want to celebrate their own or someone else's birthday for anything other than religious reasons. Because there are some religions that don't celebrate birthdays. It's well known that Jehovah's Witnesses don't celebrate birthdays. They also don't celebrate most major holidays like Easter or Christmas, even though those are generally considered Christian holidays. Also, funny coincidence, just a few minutes ago, there were Jehovah's Witnesses knocking at our door. That has never happened while living here, having Jehovah's Witnesses here. And just as I'm making this video, they show up to say, hey, have you heard the good news? I thought that was funny. Life is full of such interesting coincidences. And birthday celebrations are somewhat controversial among other sects of Christianity as well, not just Jehovah's Witnesses. Although the birthday of Jesus of Nazareth is celebrated as a Christian holiday on December 25th, historically celebrating of an individual person's birthday has been subject to theological debate. Early Christians, notes the World Book of Encyclopedia, considered the celebration of anyone's birth to be a pagan custom. Origen, in his commentary on Levites, wrote that Christians should not only refrain from celebrating their birthdays, but should look at them with disgust as a pagan custom. A saint's day was typically celebrated on the anniversary of their martyrdom or death. Ordinary folk in the Middle Ages celebrated their saint's day, which is the saint they were named after, but nobility celebrated the anniversary of their birth. Some Muslims also don't celebrate their birthdays. The birthday does not reflect Islamic tradition, and because of this, the majority of Muslims refrain from celebrating it. Others do not object as long as it is not accompanied by behavior contrary to Islamic tradition. A good portion of Muslims and Arab Christians who have immigrated to the United States and Europe celebrate birthdays as customary, especially for children, while others abstain. Hindus celebrate the birth anniversary day every year when the day that corresponds to the lunar month or solar month of birth and has the same asterism as that of the date of birth. That age is reckoned whenever, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Janma Nakshatra of the same month passes. Hindus regard death to be more auspicious than birth, since the person is liberated from the bondages of material society. Also, traditionally, rituals and prayers for the departed are observed on the 5th and 11th days, with many relatives gathering.
Throughout my life, I've been very obsessed with death. Oui.
The topic of death in various cultures and religions honestly goes a lot deeper than the topic of birth. Even though those two things are kind of intrinsically linked together, people have so many more beliefs, superstitions, and weight around the idea of death than they do of birth. Typically, the taking away of life has a lot more weight than the giving of life in a lot of religions and cultures. And honestly, that could be a video all by itself. Because in most religions, I guess I can't speak to every religion because I don't know the deep details of every religion, but I know in Christianity, death in itself is kind of like a central focus. You know, the death of Jesus sacrificed on the cross. If you're a Christian, when you die, you will go to heaven, all of these different things. And then, of course, in terms of birth in Christianity, there's also being born again in Christ. The idea that it's like your new birth and you were like a renewed human being. So the idea of both birth and death really permeates in everything in Christianity, but also in just existence in general, because birth and death surround literally everything in life and in death. And every religion and every sect within that religion has their own very unique perspective on a person's birthday and how that should or should not be celebrated. While the majority of people celebrate it, there are some people who are just vehemently opposed, and there are also some people who just feel kind of weird about it, so maybe they don't celebrate it, but they're like low key about it. Celebrating someone else's birthday was a way to show affection, friendship, or respect. In exile, the poet Ovid, though alone, celebrated not only his own birthday rite, but that of his far distant wife. Birthday parties affirmed social as well as sacred ties. One of the Vindolanda tablets is an invitation to a birthday party from the wife of one Roman officer to the wife of another. Books were a popular birthday gift, sometimes handcrafted as a luxury edition or composed especially for the person honored. Birthday poems are a minor but distinctive genre of Latin literature. The banquets, libations, and offerings were gifts that were a regular part of most Roman religious observances, thus became part of the birthday celebrations for individuals. I promise this isn't all from Wikipedia, but this section is. According to Herodotus, of all the days in the year, the one which Persians celebrate most is their birthday. It was customary to have the board furnished on that day with an ampler supply than common. The richer people eat wholly baked cows, horse, camel, or donkey, while the poorer classes use instead the smaller kinds of cattle. It's interesting how all throughout history, birthdays have been such a clear example of class struggle. All the way back in ancient times, we could see the poor not being able to afford the fatted calf on their big day. And even now, we still see that play out with celebrities posting about their wild and extravagant birthday parties, where they go out on vacations or host big costume parties for all of their friends. The Kardashians especially love to post about their very expensive parties. In fact, just a few years ago, Kylie Jenner was under fire for how tone deaf her Handmaid's Tale themed birthday party was. It was one of the most clear examples of class divide I had seen in a while. She probably spent more on the decor and costuming for this single party than I spent in a whole year to cosplay as oppressed for a day. This year for my birthday, I wanted a cake from the local bakery because they make very good desserts, and I didn't want to have to bake my own cake again this year. I like baking, but I got really tired of having to bake my own cake for my own day. And maybe that's silly, but I wanted to outsource it to my favorite bakery so I could have a delicious cake that also had a line from Pride and Prejudice on it. You know that line. I'm 27 years old with no money, no prospects, already a burden to my parents, and I'm frightened.
I'm 27 years old. I've no money and no prospects. I'm already a burden to my parents. And I'm frightened.
I really wanted that on a cake. And heaven knows I could not do that with icing. I would mess it up. But the cake costs too much. I can't afford to buy the cake from that bakery. So it's basically a box cake or nothing, which is a bummer. And it's such a small thing. There are bigger issues in the world. I'm not saying, like, how dare I not be able to afford a cake? This is criminal. But my birthday is the time of year where I often think about all the things I cannot afford. For me personally, I love my own birthday. I love celebrating that I'm getting older. I think that's so amazing. And I'm honestly one of those really annoying people who makes a big deal about their birthday. Like, I celebrate it all month long, basically. And I know that annoys some people, but I like my birthday. And despite all that, I've never been able to afford to take a trip or even have a fancy birthday cake. Meanwhile, the Kardashians will rent out entire islands to celebrate their birthdays. Yes, that is something that they actually did. And yes, I am still incredibly financially privileged compared to a lot of people, and that's important to acknowledge, and I am very thankful for what I have. But it's worth mentioning how throughout history the rich have always spent lavishly on their birthdays, practically throwing away money for a single celebration, while oftentimes you find parents who can't afford to buy their kids birthday presents or buy them their favorite dinner on their special day. For me, my birthday is always a sobering reminder that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and the wealth disparity in this country is so unfair. And it's not unfair because I didn't get my fancy cake, it's unfair because people will die because they can't afford medical care or to feed themselves. The grandiose display of wealth the rich flaunt on their birthdays is a visual example of this very harsh reality that I often think about on my own birthday. I hope that makes sense and it doesn't sound like I'm complaining that the world is unfair because, I didn't get some cake. The cake is, a metaphor.
Let them eat cake.
And on a more sobering note, there are 63,000 Palestinians who will never be able to celebrate their birthdays again, because that's how many have been murdered since October 7th, 2023. I will be linking resources from Where the Peace and Let's Talk Palestine for Gaza down below that I encourage you all to donate to, because I can live without my cake, but they can't live without food or water, and they are starving. They don't have any of that right now, so please donate. If you're thinking about stopping on my Ko-fi and giving me a birthday donation, that's so kind of you, but I encourage you to first stop at the links in the description and consider donating to them instead. Because I can't sit idly by eating my cake while there are people literally starving to death. It is not fair, and it is one of the most horrific things imaginable, and we need to be doing everything we can to stop it and get aid to these innocent people who are dying every single day. So please donate what you can. Sorry for the sudden shift to a more heavy subject matter, but that is really, really important. These people cannot feed themselves. They cannot feed their children. They have no access to food or water. Humanitarian aid is being blocked. We need to do what we can to get them the resources they need to continue living. And I feel like there's so much more I need to be doing. But unfortunately, donating and raising awareness to the audience that I have garnered here on YouTube is unfortunately all that I can really do right now. Which is why we need to use our voice as much as we can, because our voice is really all that we have to say, this is wrong, it needs to stop. So use your voice, don't be silent, and please donate. Sorry for drastically switching between tones here, but this was really important for me to say, and I didn't want to just shoehorn it in at the very end of the video because not everyone watches to the end of the video. So I felt it was important to put here, even though it may not be the ideal place for it. Because if I put it at the very beginning, YouTube might not show this video to people, and if I put it to the end, nobody's going to see it. So this is where it is. Sorry for the awkward transition. Thank you guys so much for watching and donating, and now back to the topic of the video. But the birthday is also a reminder of how commercialized everything has become. Well, back in ancient times, birthdays were exclusively for the gods and the ultra-wealthy. In a commercialized capitalist 2025, birthdays are for everyone. Sort of. with birthday cards in every store, with birthday decor on every party aisle, and birthday cake being its own flavor of ice cream. Birthdays are a multi-billion-dollar industry. I found this on LinkedIn, but it says birthday party supplies market size was valued at USD 45.2 billion in 2024 and is projected to reach USD 61.8 billion by 2033. Our capitalist society loves every opportunity to make money off of a person, and if that means squeezing every dime they can out of you on your own daggum birthday, they will. And it might seem contradictory to complain that the ultra wealthy can afford more extravagant parties and the poor can't, while also saying that these parties are a symptom of capitalism, but I don't think it's contradictory. The ultra wealthy's wild parties are the I almost said epitome, are the epitome of capitalism and consumerism. And I'm not saying you're like a horrible capitalist monster if you want to treat yourself on your birthday. Like, don't feel bad about that. But nobody needs to rent an island to do that. The idea of needing a big, incredibly wasteful event is a sign of late stage capitalism, and even the ancient Egyptians, in all of their extravagance, were not flying their private jets to their private islands to host their exclusive parties, and they were doing these parties for their gods, not the Kardashians. Ultimately, there's nothing wrong with wanting to treat yourself on your birthday, but we are sold the idea more than ever that you should blow a ton of money and buy a bunch of decorations you'll never use again, and your birthday should be about things and spending money and not experiencing the joys of getting older. Your birthday should be about the fact that you're still alive and you're here and it's your day and how special that is, not how expensive your party is. What I mean is, you can look at the ridiculous way the rich spend on parties and understand it's foolish and wasteful, while also acknowledging it's unfair that they have so much extra money to throw away that they can afford to be foolish and wasteful. I hope I'm making sense. Moving on. From Kylie Woodley on Historical Bookworm, German bakers began baking birthday cakes in the 18th century. According to historian Elizabeth Pleck, birthday parties did not become common even among the wealthy Americans until the late 1830s. Peer culture birthday parties where children were included in the celebration did not become common even among the wealthy Americans until the late 30s. The grades being set with specific age ranges in American urban public schools made going to friends' parties popular. And something I don't see discussed very much when I looked up the history of the birthday and why it's become more popular over time. Obviously, there are a lot of factors, and capitalism has a lot to do with that, but something I didn't see mentioned is the fact that not everyone in the past even knew when their birthday was. Some didn't know their own date of birth. Even their own ages were sometimes just estimates. The documentation of births is a practice widely held throughout human civilization. The original purpose of vital statistics was for tax purposes and for the determination of the available military manpower. In England, births were initially registered with churches, who maintained registers of births. This practice continued into the 19th century. The compulsory registration of births with the United Kingdom government is a practice that originated at least as far back as 1853. The entire United States did not get a standardized system until 1902, so there was a very long period of history where birth records were hardly a thing. And although they did try to get a general census, there's only so much you can do without computers to keep a track of everyone and their ages and when they were born and all of that. And it's only been in the past 100 years or so that it's become easier for people to keep records like this and not lose them or get lost in the system. So there was a very long period of history where birth records were hardly a thing and ages were often guesstimated. For some cultures, ages were sorted by the year they were born, not the day, so birthdays were hardly important. Birthdays were still celebrated by some, but didn't become widely celebrated until the past few centuries, and I think it's worth noting how people literally not knowing the day they were born plays into that. You are much less likely to not know information about your date or even time of birth now, although it is still possible, and I'm not saying it was completely impossible back in the day, but it was still much more common to just not know the details of your birth like that. But now, with standardized systems having been implemented pretty much everywhere, and the existence of computers that keep records, now we have birth certificates, which were not always a thing. But yeah, sometimes people just didn't know their own age. So, how could they even celebrate their birthday? The Chinese word for years old is entirely different from the usual word years, reflecting the former importance of the Chinese astrology and the belief that one's fate was bound to the stars, imagined to be in opposition to the planet Jupiter at the time of one's birth. Traditionally, Chinese birthdays, when celebrated, were reckoned using the lunisolar calendar, which varies from the Gregorian calendar by as much as a month forward or backward, depending on the year. Celebrating the lunisolar birthdays remains common on Taiwan while growing increasingly uncommon in the mainland. In Ghana, children wake up on their birthday to a special treat called odo, which is a patty made from mashed sweet potato and eggs fried in palm oil. Later, they have a birthday party where they usually eat stew and rice and a dish known as I'm not going to pronounce that correctly, so I'm just going to put it on the screen, which is fried plantain chunks. I think it's really amazing how each culture has their very own specific way in which they celebrate birthdays. And even each individual has their own thing that they like do for themselves, for their friends and their family, that differs, from person to person. And I don't know, I just think it's so cool to see how uniquely and differently everyone lives their lives. But everyone sort of has their own thing that they do on their birthday, whether it be a certain place they go, or a certain thing they eat, or a certain thing they wear. Speaking of wearing, do you ever think about how silly it is that we wear those little like dunce hats at birthday parties? Like, why is the birthday hat the same as the humiliation hat? But apparently that's also from ancient Egypt, because apparently everything is from ancient Egypt. Take this information with a grain of salt, though, as I literally found it on a website called 1-800-Flowers. But it says, as with many modern day customs, we can trace the origin of pointy hats and noisemakers back to ancient times. Once puzzled by the purpose of these objects, art historians now believe ancient Egyptians wore cone shaped hats as a festive form of dress at special occasions, like banquets. In 2019, archaeologists excavating an ancient grave site unearthed two beeswax cones that match those seen in wall paintings. And then it links to an article from ArtNet titled, Strange Cones Depicted on the Heads of Ancient Egyptians Puzzled Scholars for Years. Now the mystery has been solved. They were hats. That's so funny. That's so funny to me. I don't know. Like, we spent so long trying to figure out what these special things that were in the ancient Egyptian, like wall paintings. It's a hat. That's why they wear them on their head, because it's a hat. But it says, still, Egyptologists basically have no clue what the actual purpose of this enigmatic headgear was. But there is the assumption that they just wore it to go to parties, to dress up fancy. Back to the 1-800-Flowers article, these physical findings, combined with the artwork previously found, indicate that many members of the Egyptian society wore cone-shaped hats at celebrations. One study suggests these hats were a symbol meant to enhance the rebirth of the deceased in the afterlife. In some parts of the world, including Great Britain, birthday party hats, especially when worn by the guest of honor, are usually in the shape of the royal crown. However, in the US, the cone-shaped dunce cap, worn as a form of punishment by misbehaving schoolchildren in the 19th and early 20th century, may have been the inspiration. This may be stupid, but if back when dunce hats were still like a popular form of punishment and humiliation, someone tried to get me to wear one for my birthday, I wouldn't do it. Although perhaps some people took a more lighthearted approach and thought it was just kind of a fun, silly thing to do on their birthdays. I guess not everyone is as easily embarrassed as me. The ancient Egyptians apparently had no problem saying, "Oh, it's our god's birthday. Time to become coneheads."
What is a seven-letter word for a tomb in ancient Egypt, which is a quadrilateral masonry mass having smooth, steeply sloping sides meeting at an apex?
I thought I would end this with something kind of cute and sweet, so I asked my followers what are some of their own personal birthday traditions, and here are some of the responses I got. I grew up in a family where your favorite meal was your birthday present, as have many people from my culture. Very non materialistic yet warm, and a lot of my favorite memories. I think that's so sweet. Not at all unique to me, but I believe this is a German thing. It's considered bad luck to wish someone a happy birthday before the actual day, and often people will celebrate into their birthday, meaning the party starts on the eve at midnight and everyone congratulates them. That's really interesting because here you say like, "Oh, my birthday's in a week or so," and people start saying, "Oh, happy early birthday." Like, if that was bad luck, I'd be screwed. Maybe that's why so many people cry on their birthdays, because too many people wish them happy birthday before the actual day. In Brazil, the birthday person cuts the cake, and the first one to receive the slice is supposed to be the most important person for them. That's also really cute. But then, like, isn't it a lot of pressure to pick, like, the right person to give the slice to? And imagine being the person who doesn't get the first slice. Is it gonna hurt your feelings if you thought you were the most important person to them and then you find out you're not because they give their slice of cake to somebody else? That's kind of a heavy tradition for a birthday. We eat birthday noodles, and you're not really supposed to bite them because long noodles represent a long life, or something like that in Chinese culture. They're not quite sure, but it's something like that. I have a Guyanese friend, and on his birthday, all his relatives that are there have to spoon feed him a piece of cake. That reminds me of how, like, at weddings, the couples will, like, try to, like, feed each other the cake. So that's really interesting. I didn't know anyone did that. Not me personally, but my dad goes for a walk in the cemetery every year. That's really interesting to go through and look at all the people who died on your birthday. I suppose it could make you appreciate life a lot more. Since I'm a twin, we would have one half of a cake and each half would be decorated differently. I think that's kind of cute, but I would also probably be kind of upset if I only got half a cake to myself instead of a whole one. Now I like to sit at one spot outside the library and eat a Kit Kat while it turns midnight. Eating a nice snack at midnight to celebrate your birthday. That's the way to do it. I really like this one. We sing this old Winnie the Pooh birthday song from a record from like the 60s. That is so cute. I would love to sing a Winnie the Pooh birthday song on my birthday. I want to know what the song is now. I want to sing it on my birthday. I want that to be a new tradition. I want to sing the Winnie the Pooh birthday song every year. I'm gonna have to find this because that sounds awesome. And here's a few more stories that I didn't see when I was filming this the first time. This one says, my mom made dirt cake for me every year. I'm told it's an Appalachian thing. I'm from there, but I'm not totally sure if it's exclusive. Anyway, I live in Asia now, but I still make it for myself with her recipe. I think that's so cute that you don't live with her anymore, but you still make that recipe for yourself. I think that's a really sweet tradition to carry on. I'm Southern, I'm Appalachian, and I am not entirely sure what a dirt cake is. I assume that's made with like crumbled Oreo cookies because pretty much anytime we have a recipe that requires dirt, it's just Oreo crumble. So I'm assuming that's it, that it's like a cake with Oreo on it. But if it's not, let me know. Maybe I should Google that. Not sure if it's relevant, but in Australia we sing another bit after happy birthday. Why was he/she born so beautiful? Why was he/she born at all? Because she had no say in it, no say in it at all. Imagine on your birthday people singing to you, why were you born at all? I'm not sure how I feel about that one. I think it would give me kind of an existential crisis, which is something that you kind of have to stave off really hard on your birthday anyway, so I'm not sure if I would want to hear that. That one's really interesting. If anyone sings this to you, let me know how you feel about it, because I'm really curious, because all of this is like new information to me. This one also says, for birthdays in Poland, there's a name day where we celebrate our name. It's sometimes an even bigger deal than your birthday. I think that's really cool. I really like my name, so I think I would love to celebrate a name day. Just like a whole day dedicated to celebrating the name that I have. Yeah, let's go. I like that one. I like a lot of these. These are really interesting. I love hearing everybody's individual birthday traditions, like all the different cultures and all the different individual lives. It's just, it's so neat. And my personal tradition that I love to do every year is visit a bookstore. I know this may shock some of you, but I love books and I love bookstores. But I actually don't, but there's actually not a bookstore in my town. So every year on my birthday, I go out of town and I go to a bookstore and I just spend hours there soaking up the books and going through and picking them out and looking at them. And then I usually don't buy anything because they're really expensive, but I look. I look. I just love bookstores and I love being around books. And that's why I love having these shelves because it makes me so happy to sit here just surrounded by books. I love bookstores and I am so excited for my bookstore day this year because I'm really excited to turn 27 and I hope it's a lot of fun. And before we end this just for fun, I want to share some famous birthdays on August 18th and some cool historical things that have happened on August 18th. But some famous birthdays are Robert Redford, Christian Slater, Shelley Winters, Edward Norton, Andy Samberg, Francis Bean Cobain, Patrick Swayze, Aphex Twin, Brooke Taylor, who is a mathematician from the 1600s, and I only mention him because his name is also Taylor, Caitlin Olsen, and they're fictional characters, but they're real to me, Percy Jackson and Ethan Hunt. I share birthdays with all of those people. Oh, and how could I forget? Oh my gosh, Claro. Me and Claro have the exact same birthday, August 18th, 1998. We were born on the same day. And so I hope everything in life works out for Claro just because we were born on the same day. And I feel like a kinship because we share that birthday. Hope everything works out for Claro. And some cool things historically that happened on August 18th are on August 18th, 1868, French astronomer Pierre Janssen discovered helium. On August 18th, 1877, American astronomer Asaph Hall discovers Phobos, one of Mars's moons. On August 18th, 1920, the 19th Amendment was ratified. Go women! The fictional events of Texas Chainsaw Massacre happened on August 18th, 1973. On August 18th, 2008, David Byrne and Brian Eno released the amazing album Everything That Happens Will Happen Today. Yes, it will happen today, because it's my birthday. Sorry. On August 18th, 2014, Taylor Swift released the Shake It Off music video. And on August 18th, 2017, she blacked out all her social media, officially initiating the Reputation era. And on that same day, Wind River was released in theaters. On August 18th, 2018, Tyler Joseph, lead singer of 21 Pilots, officially ended the band's year-long hiatus by tweeting on my birthday. That was a really fun day for me. It was just a tweet, but I was like, yes, I've been waiting for this band to come back for a year now. And on August 18th, 2020, Taylor Swift released the song The Lakes. And on August 18th, 2023, Hozier released his album Unreal Unearth. And on August 18th, 2025, this video came out. Also, it's only been a couple hours since I initially recorded this, but 21 Pilots just announced their next single is dropping on August 18th. On my birthday, they're dropping a new song. So add that to the list.
I was then shot 57 times.
So that's awesome. Also, I specifically looked up like historical events that happened on August 18th, and most of them were tragedies. So that's why I mostly just included some fun pop culture stuff, because there were like a lot of witch trials that happened and a lot of executions that happened on August 18th specifically. So that's crazy. There's such a long list of historical events on August 18th on Wikipedia, but most of them weren't fun. So yeah, Taylor Swift released Shake It Off. She started the Reputation era. She released the song The Lakes. Hozier released an album. David Byrne released an album. There were also like Mortal Kombat the movie came out in 95. On August 18th. I've never seen it. And then the movie Snakes on a Plane, which I've also never seen, also came out on August 18th in 2006. I don't remember what year that came out. But lots of stuff happened on August 18th, including my birthday. I try to do a simple quick video and not ramble on like I have been doing for every other video. I'll see in editing the time to see if that actually worked out. But if you made it to this point, thank you so much. I had so much fun making this video, and I've had so much fun with this channel. It has truly been so awesome. The support means the world to me. And I know I say it every video, but it's still true every single video. I am having so much fun with this. The support means the world to me, and I can't wait to keep making more of these. If you can't tell, I'm really happy today because I'm ready to celebrate my birthday. But I'm having... Well, sorry. If you made it this far, if you enjoyed this video, if you want to see more from me in the future, please remember to like and subscribe. Comment your special birthday traditions below. If there's anything you do, like specifically on your birthday, just as a fun little thing, please comment below because I loved reading the answers from Twitter and Instagram, and I would love to hear more. And I have had a couple people ask me about making a Patreon, but I don't think that's something I'm going to do right now because the content you see, the videos that I post, that's all that I've made. There's no like extra out there. It takes me a while to make this. And in fact, like a couple weeks ago, I gathered up a bunch of videos and I tried to do them all in one day, so I'd have kind of a backlog for several weeks. So I would have that time to focus on researching and writing new scripts. And I kind of didn't do that. So I don't even know what I'm going to make next. And it's going to take time. And I don't want to become so focused on trying to find a way to make money out of this that I spread myself too thin and it's no longer fun and I get worn down and I find myself not even wanting to make videos anymore. So I do have a Ko-fi. I have a couple paintings on there. I said I was going to get more on there. I haven't yet, but I'm going to. But that's all I really have right now, and I don't want to try to focus on creating so many things that like I don't have time to do it all and I don't have the energy to do it all. I'm really happy that I'm monetized. I never imagined my channel would get monetized this quickly, and it would be so cool if like one day this could become like a steady career, although I don't know if that's ever going to be an option with the way YouTube is like rolling out all of these new restrictions. I don't know how that's going to affect my channel, but it would be cool if this could be like a job one day, but it's not right now, and I don't want it to feel like a job quite yet. You know what I mean? I want to have fun with this. I'm having a lot of fun with this. I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to burn out. So there will not be a Patreon just yet, at least until I get a good routine going, which is going to be a while. I really want to make a video about Oppenheimer in the book American Prometheus, but I need to reread it in order to do that. And it's like 700 pages long, and I haven't gotten back into it. But that is the next big video I want to work on. I don't know what I'm going to put out while I'm working on that. But that's the plan, that's the goal. And if there's anything specific you want to see from me, let me know. But yeah, no Patreon for now. All of my content is completely free to watch, nothing is behind a paywall. And please share Copy link, because that really helps with the algorithm. As I said before, the places to donate will be linked below, as well as the sources for this video. Most of it's Wikipedia, if I'm being honest. But in the age of AI disinformation, I really appreciate Wikipedia more than ever. And so thank you so much for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed this. See you next week. Bye!